Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Got Harem with Mikoto, Anko and Tsunade Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. For as long as most could remember, women held the power in the world. This came about naturally since long ago the Sage of Six Paths gifted the world with knowledge on the power residing in everything, chakra. But this oft-held notion of who was meant to hold power would soon be challenged by something never before seen. I wonder what Ten-chan, Hinata-chan and everyone else is doing right now. Thought a 10-year-old blonde boy as he calmly strode down the street towards his favorite ramen joint. This boy was none other than Naruto Uzumaki, the village pariah, well when it came to the male populace, and beloved child, to damn near every female he met. He was decently sized for his age, thanks to the presence of food given to him by friends and random females, and wore a light blue kimono with a subtle black trim, one of several he owned thanks to the Hyuga and their adoration of him. But arguably his most important feature at this time was something that ever since he was born had endeared him to nearly every female he met, his beyond angelic face. For you see, Naruto was a kind gentle boy who deeply enjoyed cooking and music. This demeanor coupled with his insanely handsome features and developing build created a boy whom many were developing plans, or had already started on said plans Hyuga on wooing in the incoming years. Naruto had been living on his own for a number of years after his banishment from the orphanage, the property being owned by a male council member, where he made friends with Tenten, now adopted, and Lei, also adopted. Tomorrow would be his birthday and as such most who Naruto considered close were nowhere to be seen, whether figuring what to get him or arguing over where his party should be, so he had spent the day mostly alone. As Naruto walked past an alleyway he was suddenly snatched from the street with such skill that no one around even noticed. "Hey, let go of me," he managed to muffle out over the hand covering his mouth before he was struck, rendering him unconscious. "Good, the little brat is out," said the disguised Kunoichi as she blended into the shadows and quickly headed to her rendezvous point. 6 hours later at the border of Hai no Kuni, on a bridge situated atop a cliffside overlooking a rampaging river below. The Kunoichi from earlier drops the bag she had put the 10-year-old roughly into on the ground, a small distance from a pompous man in formal attire. "Hey, I got you the kid. Where's my pay? You will receive it when I see the boy and no this isn't a rip-off," he replied in an arrogant tone that served to piss off the Kunoichi who was starting to wonder if she should kill him after all was said and done. Deciding to think on that later she opened the bag and dropped the bound and gagged child. Well, look what we have here. A demon without his little to keep him safe," chuckled out the merchant as he drew closer and saw that it was indeed Naruto. "You've done your job admirably. Here, your fee and a little extra in case anyone asks you about anything," he said as he handed a rather heft sack of jewels to the near salivating Kunoichi. As she started to turn away and leave, the unknown man went back to the now conscious and fully terrified Naruto. "Would you like to know who I am, you filthy demon?" asked the man as Naruto tried to squirm away. "I am Shinobu Shindo, a councilman. 10 years ago tomorrow will be the day you slaughtered my family and destroyed most of my business. The reason why I tell you this is because you boy, and I use that loosely, are the Kyuubi. And for your sins you will pay with your life," he uttered in a tone filled with rage and madness as he slowly unsheathed a knife and approached the wide-eyed Naruto. And in an instant he pounced. With wild abandon and the bottled rage of a decade he slashed and stabbed the young boy who could do nothing but unleash a muffled yell of pain. After tiring, the man had a demented grin at his horrid handiwork as he stared at the broken body of Naruto. "Well Kyuubi, I think it's time you enjoy a visit to your home in hell," he said as he grabbed the poor boy's head and tilted it back before ruthlessly slitting his throat as deeply as he could. And then as the boy felt his life start to leave him he was hoisted up and thrown into the river below. Ha 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 ha. I did it. I avenged you all. He cried to the heavens as he started to walk back. Thunk for a brief moment Shindo could not imagine where the sound had come from until he turned slightly and saw the butchered remains of the rogue kunoichi he hired for the kidnapping. And above the corpse was the boiling with rage Hokage Hirako Sarutobi along with a battalion of Anbu all radiating such potent killer intent that one would think a Biju had arrived. Quicker than the eye could see Shindo was bound, gagged and had a kunai shoved through both hands to make sure he knew they meant business. I'll ask this once, where is Naruto? The kunoichi no Megami growled out. Well, after cutting him up and slitting his throat I thought he could use a swim. Shindo happily said as he looked towards the cliff. Bam! The sound of the Hokage's fist breaking the man's jaw was heard loudly as Hirako threw him to a standing Anbu. Take him to T and I want everything he knows and by the end of it I want him to beg for death. Inu. Get your ninkin out here on the double and search for Naruto. Ushi. Use your eyes and look as well. I want the rest of you to scour every last rock to find Naruto, damn it. Hirako yelled as she tried to hold in her tears for the probable loss of the child she viewed as a grandson. The Anbu as well were glad to have their masks as they frantically searched for their beloved Naruto. Tears escaping slowly as they felt a hole grow in their hearts as the search proved futile. As Naruto floated along, a curious red energy surrounded his dying body and swiftly healed all the damage, but unfortunately even it was not fast enough to heal his throat and a scar remained. The energy then pulled Naruto towards shore and using his body like a puppet swiftly moved him deeper into the surrounding forest with a grace unseen amongst most mortals until it eventually stopped in a cave several miles away. It gently laid the boy down and receded into the boy's body. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto woke up floating in water. His body seemingly fine after the brutal murder attempt on his person. He stood slowly and looked around. This place was odd. It looked like a hall with strange red and blue pipes flowing along the fine walls, which seemed to be a nice marble, and for some reason he felt the urge to move forward towards the probable center of this strange place. After what seemed like hours he arrived to a giant cage with a ceiling tag in the middle of it, and behind it was a red-haired woman whose intense beauty momentarily rendered him unable to move. She was tall, standing at least 5 feet 11 with red hair that flowed to her mid-back, ruby-colored eyes, soft lush lips, a petite and perfect nose and a long elegant neck. She wore a rather provocative blood-red kimono with black trim that ended several inches above her knees, allowing a tantalizing sense of lust in the hopes it would rise just a bit too much. The kimono barely covered her rather large DD cup and perfect, heart-shaped rear. And finally her long lightly tanned legs, which were exquisitely toned and completed the picture of perfection. Ah, it is good to finally meet my jailer. Hello Naruto-kun. I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune. My name is Kurama. Welcome to your mind, the beautiful woman said in a regal and equally beautiful voice. So it's true. I am a monster. Does this mean everyone I've ever loved secretly hates me and wants me dead too? Is that why I was captured so easily? Naruto started to ramble off as he reached the depths of despair and questioned his entire life up until this point. It was fairly obvious that if he wasn't taken out of this hysteria soon he may never come out of it. Luckily, the Demon Queen had a way to snap him out of this spiral. In a smooth sensual motion she lowered the upper part of her kimono and displayed her spectacular. This bit of exhibitionism served to both instantly quiet Naruto and get his attention on her. Naruto instantly turned into a shade of red. His dear friend Hinata would be proud of. Funnily enough, he noticed she always blushed and stuttered quite a bit when he was near. Why are you flashing me? He choked out as he covered his eyes with both hands, yet still left enough room to peek. Because I needed your attention and you were too stuck in your own despair to give me said attention. She answered calmly as she put her kimono back on the way it should be. That, and I want to make sure you got a good look for the day I make you mine, she inwardly thought with a smile. While a demon, she was still a woman with needs. Needs a certain blonde was going to fill down the line, besides he was perfect for a mate anyways. Ahem, now we need to discuss your current situation. You see, because of the attack on you I had to do a bit of remodeling and enhancing. But because of the damage done to your throat I had to completely rebuild it and hit a snag, so I decided that you would get a new Kekai Genkai, the siren's song. She explained in a calm and somewhat proud tone. Thanks Kurama-san. But what is siren's song? And what do you mean by remodeling? Asked a curious Naruto. Well, for remodeling, that asshole covered his dagger in a special and ultra-rare and powerful toxin that destroys any tissue it comes across. Because it cut so deeply, much of your chakra coils were destroyed. Same goes for your throat. With your throat though, the damage was so bad I decided to simply implement my own design. I allowed my chakra to remake your vocal cords so that now when you sing you can cast jutsu. Of course you'll have to create your own jutsu since it is a new Kekai Genkai, but I have faith in you. It will be much more difficult for you to speak now. So watch it, Kurama explained. So basically my voice now has a power to it? Naruto curiously asked. Yes, pretty much. But as to the chakra coils in the rest of your body, I had to supercharge them in order to save you. And since this amount of tampering has never happened before, I don't quite know how this affects everything. She finished. Oh, okay. So how do I get out of here? Naruto asked. Kurama merely smiled a pretty smile of ill intention as she snapped her fingers and the floor beneath Naruto suddenly gave way to a maw of pure darkness. As Naruto opened his eyes he realized that he was in a cave unfamiliar with him. As he got up and stretched his tired limbs he tried to speak but found that he couldn't. Quickly starting to panic, he remembered Kurama's words on his ability of speech and the new difficulty thereof. So he took a deep breath, exhaled slowly and started to at least try to make a sound. Gurg was the fruit of that venture. Deciding to put off speaking for now, he quickly started moving around to see if his body still responded properly. As he moved he noticed something strange, a weird sense of power flowing through his limbs whenever he moved. As he stepped out of the cave wondering about this, he felt the rays of the morning sun hitting his skin. A sudden feeling of power filled him, and getting a piece of inspiration he punched forward, emitting a burst of fire. Whoa, he muttered. Well, that is certainly new. Kurama added, intrigued. Kura-chan? Naruto asked aloud. You need only think your response, Naruto-kun. Lest others question your sanity. I established a mental link so that if need be I can speak with you. Kurama said through a rather deep blush after the cute nickname she received. Oh, okay. Thanks Kura-chan. So now what do I do with myself? We need to further develop both your newfound ability with the elements and test out Siren's song. So I will instruct you in the ways of the world while also teaching you survival techniques and taijutsu. Maybe even kenjutsu if we can. So get ready to travel this world. Kurama said with authority. Okay. Do you think I'll ever find someone to accept me as I am? Naruto asked timidly and with an air of both slight hope and developing sadness. Of course Naruto-kun. That person may even be closer than you think, Kurama confidently assured him. Thank you Kura-chan, Naruto said with as much gratitude as he could muster. And so Naruto embarked on his quest to master his gifts. If only he could imagine the sheer effect he would have on this world. 6 years later, border of Lightning Country. A lone figure could be seen walking slowly towards a camp of sleeping bandits. The figure was at least 5 feet 11 with broad shoulders and what appeared to be a lean, athletic build from what little the robe showed. The figure was also cloaked in a strange robe that moved like the wind around him yet never showed any sign of the person within. As he approached he heard the whimpering of several young girls, the daughters of the nobles of this area who were kidnapped a few hours ago. They were all bound and thrown into large cages near the edge of the camp. The figure blended into the shadows and observed the moderately sized camp, with maybe several dozen bandits at the most. And after forming a plan in mind, he jumped quickly into the center of the camp and stood there silently. The bandits quickly jumped up and readied themselves to try and take down this newcomer and hesitantly surrounded him. "What the bloody hell do you want?" shouted one of the burlier and, if his looks meant anything, dumber of the bandits. The figure said nothing but slowly unsheathed a rather plain ninjutsu from inside his cloak. The bandits tensed and started to sweat, seeing that this newcomer seemed unaffected by their numbers. And like some unseen signal being set off, the bandits all charged as one to try and take down this foolish would-be hero. To the captured girls, the next few minutes was like watching some kind of ethereal being dance to an unheard melody as he effortlessly cut down every single bandit in a display of skill, speed and strength that left those watching speechless. By the time the figure was done, the camp was covered in blood and the remains of the bandits, while the figure himself was as spotless as he was before the slaughter. He silently and quickly sheathed his ninjutsu before turning to the frightened girls. They quickly scurried away from the figure as he reached out to cut their binds and release them from their cages. He stopped for a moment before realizing his mistake. "I mean you no harm," a deep, melodic voice quietly said. The effect of the voice was near instantaneous, as the once scared girls instantly calmed down and even felt at ease with their savior. The figure nodded thankfully and swiftly released them from their binds. "Kunoichi will come soon for you. Farewell," said the figure as he started to blend into the forest once again. "Wait," yelled one of the braver girls, "can we at least see your face?" she asked with a tinge of nervousness. The figure stopped for a moment before removing his hood, revealing the face of our hero, Naruto Uzumaki. These past 6 years had been good to him, and he had only grown even more handsome than before, with his hair now in a spiky ponytail reaching his upper back. The effect of showing his face made every single girl blush a brilliant shade of red, and a few nosebleeds were even visible as Naruto melded into the forest once again. In less than half an hour, a trio of Kunoichi arrived to save the daughters of various nobles. They saw the slaughtered bandits and quickly got into battle stances until they spotted a rather odd sight. The blushing, dazed daughters of the nobles staring off into a patch of forest. Untied and free as if they had just drifted there. One of the Kunoichi quickly approached the small group. "What happened here?" The girl who had asked the figure earlier to see his face turned to the Kunoichi and answered as if in a trance, "We were saved by a spirit of the forest." She then quickly turned back to the spot of the forest she was previously staring at and now had a slight nosebleed and a perverted giggle. The Kunoichi merely stood there stunned. Throughout the elemental nations, a strange myth had popped up these past several years of some kind of divine spirit appearing and aiding those, usually young women, in need. Many a bandit had fallen to this unknown possible deity, and whenever questioned, the women saved would merely blush and act like love-struck schoolgirls when his appearance was brought up. Could this spirit have really been here? Several miles away, Naruto emerged from the ground swiftly and easily, as if the element responded to his every whim. He stood up and, after brushing some dirt off himself, set off on at a decent pace towards a place he had once called home, Konoha. It seems I will finally be able to return. Even if it's only for a bit. Naruto thought with a hint of excitement. "And why would it only be for a bit, Naruto-kun?" asked a curious Kurama. Over the years as Naruto's sensei, she had grown very close to him and even divulged the identities of his parents to him. "Because I rather enjoy traveling around. Besides, why would they want me to stay there? Being a wandering musician, my act might go stale eventually if I don't get a constant stream of inspiration," he stated simply. The little idiot is still as dense as ever, it seems. Well, he isn't exactly little anymore now, is he? Kurama thought with a deep blush, a suppressed perverted giggle and a good-sized nosebleed. It had been a pet project of hers to make sure Naruto was the ultimate male, and so she guided his growth in ways she thought best. Especially the lower areas. Near a waterfall, several days later. Anko Mitarashi, Kurenai Yuhi and Kasumi Hatake were returning from a mission involving a few nobles from northern Hai no Kuni who had an explosion of bandit problems due to rogue kunoichi being more and more common near the border of the newly rechristened Odo no Kuni. As they tree-hopped they heard a sound that stopped them in their tracks. An eerily beautiful and not entirely human sound that reminded them of singing. It captured their hearts and left them with a melancholic sense of joy as they felt the poignancy of a moment filled with beauty in this ugly world. Suddenly, with a deep sense of longing, the trio of kunoichi sprinted towards the beautiful music, intent on finding the source one way or another. After a few moments of frenzied looking, they came upon a sight that would be forever burned into their minds, and would be often revisited during moments alone. At the base of a waterfall they viewed the source of the singing. A young man roughly in his mid-teens was washing his body. What caught their attention was the sheer beauty of both the music and the young blonde man in question. Indeed, it felt like they had stumbled upon some forest spirit or god enjoying a refreshing bath that they as mortals were beyond privileged to even view. The trio hid themselves in the trees and sat there entranced by both the view and the music, which they realized was in some strange language that further cemented their thoughts on this being some deity. None at the moment realized that they were already feeling something deeper than mere lust for this blonde-haired youth. Lyrics to Within by Daft Punk. There are so many things that I don't understand. There's a world within me that I cannot explain. Many rooms to explore, but the doors look the same. I am lost, I can't even remember my name. I've been, for some time, looking for someone. I need to know now. Please tell me who I am. 2x. There are so many things that I don't understand. There's a world within me that I cannot explain. Many rooms to explore, but the doors look the same. Where are the locks to try the key? I am lost, I can't even remember my name. And I wonder why. I've been, for some time, looking for someone. I need to know now. Please tell me who I am. 4x. The blonde finished both his bath and the song. The trio of Konoha Kunoichi were about to jump down and try to speak, or in Anko's case molest, the mysterious man when suddenly a small group, 3 to 4 from what the trio could make out, of rogue kunoichi, with scratched-out headbands from several different nations, appeared out of the forest close to where the blonde man was, and from the looks in their eyes they wanted to be a bit frisky. "Well, hello handsome. Looks like the girls and I will be having quite a bit of fun for quite some time," the supposed leader said with a voice filled with lust as she wiped the drool off the corners of her mouth. "What do you say you come with us? We'll treat ya real nice," she said as she eyed every inch of him and wondered how she would take him first. The other rogues were of course all eye-raping the blonde and getting themselves ready for what they assumed would be happening next. The trio of Konoha Kunoichi unfortunately heard all of this and became incredibly angered for reasons they themselves did not understand yet, and were about to intervene and brutally kill those rogues when something unexpected happened. "I'm sorry, but I must decline," a beautiful and quiet, yet oddly enough still perfectly audible for all, voice said. This voice of course merely made every female want the blonde more, so his words went uncared for. What could a man do anyway? Right as they were about to pounce, the blonde in question disappeared in a flurry of movement as he utilized a strange taijutsu style to quickly and efficiently knock out each and every one of them. This little display of course shocked the Konoha Kunoichi watching, and also made their lust grow since the unknown man was still nude. Unfortunately for the blonde man, it seems these rogue kunoichi traveled in packs as another small group jumped out of the shadows. "Not bad. You managed to knock out Tomoko's group. Fu, you are a strong one. I think I'll make you my personal slave, after I break you of course," the leader of the group said as she eyed his nude form. Especially his package, she estimated it to be at least 12 inches. She really hit the jackpot with this one, she happily thought to herself. Fuck. That bitch right there is the A-rank nuke Nin Saya the Butcher. It's been rumored she started her own little gang of rogue kunoichis. If she has more, we may not be able to help the stud out, whispered out an angered Anko. Damn. You're right. But what can we do? We can't just leave him to those pieces of trash, whispered back a frustrated Kasumi. Forgive me, the blonde simply said before rushing in and throwing a punch at the leader. The entire charge happened in slow motion for the Konoha trio as something truly strange happened. Out of the end of the blonde's fist came out a stream of fire that the leader narrowly avoided, but one of her minions was not so lucky as she was incinerated. The other two minions jumped out of the way hastily and stared in open shock at the blonde man. What are you? One asked in both horror and awe. She went unanswered as the blonde man in one fluid movement kicked her, which was accompanied by an intensely powerful gust of wind that had the force of a sledgehammer. The force of both combined sent her into a tree where she snapped her neck with a loud crack. The blonde then sent a flurry of punches and kicks at the other minion, who desperately avoided each one and did not even try to launch a counterattack in her surprise and panic, each attack sending either an intensely burning flame or a crushing gust of wind. Eventually she slipped up and the blonde in another surprise launched a powerful uppercut from several feet away, which caused a large piece of earth to emerge from the ground to spike up and pierce through the chest of the enemy kunoichi. Saya watched all of this with a wide-eyed expression and believed that she had just insulted some deity and this was payment for her error. Determined to at least go out with a fight, she did the hand signs for Suiden, Suiryuden no Jutsu, Water Dragon Jutsu. The dragon rose magnificently from the water and was at least several stories tall. Take this, she yelled with all her might as she launched the attack. The trio of Konoha kunoichi watched in horror as they thought the mysterious youth would be wiped from the face of the earth, but instead of being destroyed he calmly stood his ground and gripped the head of the massive water dragon as it descended upon him. In a simple twist he completely destroyed it and sent a fine rain covering everything around him. And in a mesmerizing display of form, Azula's original display of lightning bending in Avatar, the last airbender created and launched a powerful beam of lightning at Saya, instantly killing her. The Konoha trio stood there dumbfounded about what they just witnessed. So dumbfounded that they never sensed the other groups of kunoichi, who in their surprise, awe and lust never sensed the others as well, hidden throughout the forest around the waterfall, that were attracted to the sounds of battle and the flow of chakra. Suddenly, the strange blonde man, in motions almost too quick to be seen, grabbed his clothing, put it on and then disappeared into the ground like a phantom. His chakra signature also rapidly disappeared, and so he escaped from all the kunoichi watching. Damn, we lost him. Quick, we have to get this to Hokage-sama and see if we can figure out what just happened. Kasumi said urgently as she and her comrades quickly left towards Konoha. This same conversation was mirrored with every group of kunoichi watching, and thus Kumo, Suna, Iwa and the now recovering Kiri would soon learn of the male with power equal to, or possibly even greater than, a kunoichi. 3 days later in Kumo, Raikage's office. I wonder where he is right now. God damn it, I should have been nicer and invited him to dinner or something. But what if he doesn't like women who are too straightforward? Or too muscular for that matter? Arg, why must he haunt my thoughts and dreams? I've never felt like this before. Stupid man, I'll make you pay. By making you mine, the Yondaime Raikage was quietly thinking to herself as she remembered the beautiful blonde man who sang for her. Well, not really for her, he was performing at a high-end kunoichi bar she frequented with her sister Queen Bee on occasion. It was love at first sight. Prior to this she had only really dabbled with women, and even then nothing serious ever came of any of it. She was confused and elated at the same time and constantly wished for her wonderful man to return so she could act on these feelings and sweep him off his feet, a thought shared by nearly every kunoichi who saw him and heard his performance, including Queen Bee. Was a strong woman with short platinum blonde hair. It often appeared white in the right light, slicked back for utilitarian purposes, and deeply tanned caramel skin. She was tall with a well-muscled figure that still retained its feminine charm, helped along by the fact that she had wide lovely hips along with an absolutely perfect heart-shaped behind that would sway tantalizingly as she walked, and a rather large pair of DD that were perky and well-shaped. She wore only a pair of dark blue pants, with a strange boar belt buckle, and a sports bra under her cage robes, further adding to her underlying eroticism. Knock knock. Come in, replied A with a strange mix of being thankful for having her thoughts pulled away from her new love and anger for the very same thing. Quickly coming in were Dayani and C, two of her top kunoichi who were recently out and about doing a routine reconnaissance mission into different countries. Although they couldn't have completed their route so quickly. Dayani. C. Why the hell have you two returned so quickly? Our apologies Rakage-sama, but we saw something that needed your attention immediately. Dayani responded immediately, and for the first time in a very long time I could see her confused and rather fidgety. Explain. Do you remember that beautiful man who was here recently? The one that sang at the Isla Kunoichi bar for a few days? Dayani frantically said. At the mention of this, A's heart started frantically beating. Was her newfound love hurt? Captured? Or possibly worse? In any event, she would send a kunoichi to help him. She'd be damned if she let this slide. Outwardly keeping herself calm, she replied, "What about him? He is a goddamn deity or something," replied a so far silent C. Quote, comma dot. Come again. Ahem. What C means is that on our route we came upon a waterfall and saw him bathing. All three immediately sport blushes, although C and Dayani also start to get a nosebleed since they saw it in real life. So we were going to go and greet him, but before we could he was ambushed by a group of rogue kunoichis. Instantly A feels powerful waves of anger and a slight bit of fear for her beloved. And as we were about to interfere, he easily destroyed the entire group of rogue kunoichis. Using a mix of taijutsu and the elements themselves. Fire, water, earth, wind and lightning all bent to his will as he fought. Dayani finished hurriedly as if the action of recounting the event would make it more believable to herself. Thoughts went through A's head at the speed of light. A man had strange powers that rivaled and may even surpass the best of the element using kunoichi in her village. And this man was her beloved. Suddenly an image pops into A's head, an image of the man, Naruto. His name was, she remembered, becoming a force for Kumo. With him at her side, Kumo would have its status elevated and garner a boom in business, and this is the perfect excuse to capture, woo him and make him mine. She giddily thought. You too. Get B in her team, it's time. Kumo added a new member to her forces. A smiled as she gave her order to her equally happy subordinates. Roughly the same time, Mizukage's office. A beautiful red-haired woman is currently behind the Mizukage's desk working on what appears to be mountains of paperwork. This was the newly instated Godime Mizukage Materumi. Goddammit. I need an assistant to do this for me. What I wouldn't give for a break right about N. She was interrupted in her small rant as a knock was heard at her door. Come in, she said, trying to contain her joy for the small reprieve after spending all day on paperwork. The woman to walk in was Utakata, the Jinchuriki of the six-tailed slug and one of her most loyal and powerful kunoichi. Yuta-chan, aren't you on a short vacation? I was Mizukage-sama, but while heading to my destination I came upon something that I felt you needed to immediately know. Well, what is it? Mei asked. This was the first time she had seen Utakata so shaken up since the end of the Civil War nearly a year ago. I think I ran into Naruto. Instantly Mei gave Utakata her most serious glare. This was not a matter to take lightly. During the Civil War a strange being appeared, clad in a black cloak and never showing their face. This entity spoke in a strange gender-neutral tone. It was assumed it had some kind of mask since odd bulges could sometimes be made out from under the hood of the cloak. It controlled the elements like none had before and was one of the defining factors in ending the war as quickly as they had. The entity went only by Naruto, and would always disappear between battles or meetings for strategy. When the war ended, it told Mei that they may meet again one day and simply vanished into the earth like a specter. Mei would give damn near anything to unravel the mystery of this strange figure who even now is believed by many, kunoichi and civilian alike, to be a divine spirit sent to aid them. What makes you think it was Naruto? Tell me the whole story. Now. And so Utakata explained, having a strange urge to run towards a specific part of the forest off the normal beaten path, only to come upon a beautiful blonde male. And Utakata sported nosebleeds and blushes, since Utakata got a very good look and described what she saw quite well. And then the ensuing slaughter of rogue kunoichis and the subsequent vanishing act. The fighting style and elemental mastery completely fit the mysterious warrior, and now May was certain in the fact that she wanted Naruto here, in Kiri, and now preferably at her side. Utakata, find yourself a few tracking kunoichi that you think will be best for this. It's time we repaid our hero, May finished with a lusty tone as Utakata smiled and nodded in agreement. At the gates of Konoha. Huh, so this is what it looks like from the other side. Pondered Naruto as he stared at the gates before him. He felt an odd mix of anxiety and excitement in seeing friends he hadn't in nearly over half a decade. Well, what are you waiting for? Go in. I'm curious as to how everyone will react to your return. And I want to see just how much of a stir you cause, you dense idiot. Well, here I go then. Our sun-haired hero leisurely walked up to the Chunins guarding the gate and promptly greeted them. Oddly, well, to Naruto's mind, both guards merely starting giggling nervously and blushing and allowed him to pass without searching or really asking him anything. This tended to happen a lot, and Naruto still couldn't figure out why. Idiot. As he walked through the village, he was hit with a powerful case of nostalgia and a sense of poignancy at the memories. I wonder who I should visit first. Maybe I should set up my gig first. I can't exactly eat and sleep without any Ryo. Idiot still doesn't realize he could get a girl to pay everything for him with those looks. Then again, he is too good-hearted to really take advantage of anyone. As Naruto walked through the village, he was naturally attracting quite a bit of attention since he kept his hood off in order to fully see everything. Women would immediately stop what they were doing or drop off mid-sentence to continue staring at his face as he walked. Without knowing it, Naruto was in the beginning stages of resurrecting his fan club. Excuse me, I am a traveling musician. I was wondering if there was a place for me to perform nearby. Like a kunoichi bar or club? Naruto politely asked a passing teenager, further quickening the resurrection of his fan club as women nearby heard his beautiful voice. Anyo, TT, there's a few HHICL class places on T the Stray, Hinata Hyuga started saying as she turned around to see from where the voice came from, only to stop mid-sentence as she recognized a face that haunted her dreams since the day she became his friend. Naruto Uzumaki. He was alive, and right next to her. Hinata. Naruto softly questioned, and like someone flipped a switch, Hinata fainted at having her longtime crush, love, all grown up and saying her name. Yep. Definitely Hinata. Haha. Naruto gently chuckled out as he caught his childhood friend and picked her up in a bridal carry to take her back to the Hyuga clan compound. Nearby women stared in envy of the Hyuga princess as Naruto walked by. As he walked, Naruto was nearly run into by another pair of teenagers who weren't paying attention. He nimbly avoided them and turned to look at them. Lei-chan. Ten-chan. He softly asked the backs of both now named kunoichi. Slowly, almost robotically, they both turned and, like Hinata, were absolutely shocked to see someone they had been hoping to resurface, if only to give them closure. Naruto-kun? They both asked in sync. Naruto merely smiled and was immediately tackled by both as he and Hinata fell to floor underneath the now joyfully sobbing Tenten and Lei. It's alright. It is really me. Naruto softly comforted them as he managed a sitting position where he somehow managed to hug the three of them. Let's go somewhere so I can explain. Both Tenten and Lei nodded after wiping away tears. Roughly an hour later at Ichiraku's. And that is what has been going on these past 6 years. Naruto had just finished a stripped-down version of what he had been doing, of course leaving out the business with the Kyuubi and strange elemental powers along with some other things, To his enraptured audience of the newly awakened Hinata, she had woken up on the way but immediately fainted upon realizing she was being held close to Naruto and was once again reawakened by Tenten at Ichiraku's. And the flabbergasted Lei, Tenten and Ayame, who had hugged Naruto for dear life the moment she recognized him. Wow, you've certainly led an interesting life these past years. So don't you think you could've, I don't know, tell us you were still alive and whatnot? Tenten said with the seeds of an incredibly powerful rage growing quickly inside of her. Lei, Ayame and to the surprise of all Hinata were showing their displeasure as well. Tuki wisely escaped back to the kitchen when he felt the radiating anger. Well, I was living hand to mouth for years and it was only recently where I knew I wouldn't starve if I stopped working for more than a few days at a time. And the river washed me away pretty far so I had no idea where I was. The calm reply served to easily quench their anger as they remembered the circumstances of their dear friend's exit from the village. So, are you going to stay for a while? Yash. It would be amazing if you did, Naruto-kun. We could test each other's flames of youth. Keika-sama and Hanabi-chan would love to see you again. It's been too long since we've had our number one customer, so you better stay. The quartet said happily. Well, I do plan to stay around for a while. After all, I have never practiced my trade here in Konoha. Speaking of which, where is a good place to perform? You should all come watch my show. They eagerly told him which was the best kunoichi bar in town and even walked him therein. After speaking to the manager, a retired Anbu, Naruto was given a show that very night and told his childhood friends to bring their families. After this, the now trio of childhood friends left to inform their friends and families while Naruto himself booked a hotel and readied himself for this evening. That evening at the Silver Leaf Kunoichi Bar and Grill. Hinata, I hope there is a good reason why you insisted so much on coming here this evening. Asahi Hyuga, Hinata's father, said with a little annoyance. She, along with both Nejiko and Hanabi, had been nearly dragged out of the compound by an uncharacteristically forceful Hinata. Asahi did admit that she had become much colder these past years after both the death of her wife Hitomi and then the abduction and probable death of Naruto, Yane-sama. You've been acting weird today, indeed, Hinata-sama. What is so important about coming here? Hinata merely assured them that they would thank her later and giddily sat down and waited. Currently in the crowd of kunoichi there was Kasumi, Anko, Kurenai, the three of whom had just recently given their report, including the odd encounter with the man at the waterfall, the Hyuga family, Tenten, Lei and her adopted mother, and Sensei Might Geiru and other various off-duty Anbu and kunoichi. There was a strange air of anticipation in the air and it was making everyone rather anxious for the night's entertainment to begin. Then when it seemed that the restlessness would be too much, the light dimmed and everyone took in a breath in anticipation. Appearing on stage was a beautiful man that instantly reddened the faces of all who viewed him. Naruto always took care to make sure he was well dressed for his performances at high-end kunoichi bars. Currently he was wearing a finely tailored deep black suit with a dark blue collared shirt that suited his tan skin quite well, along with a pair of fine leather shoes that shined in the light. The sight of him in such finery immediately conjured the image of a prince attending a fine ball, and Naruto's genteel aura of sophistication, kindness and a classy playfulness added to his looks and made the room instantly quiet down. Hello. I am Naruto Uzumaki and this is the first time I've played here in Konoha. I've been away for quite some time, so please treat me kindly. It couldn't be, could it? The immediate thoughts of everyone in the room, besides the trio who talked to him earlier, as they heard Naruto's name and the fact that he had just returned. Now then, I've kept you waiting long enough. Allow me the pleasure to entertain you lovely ladies this evening, Naruto said in a teasing manner which served to arouse all those listening. Bruno Mars, treasure. Give me your attention, baby. I gotta tell you a little something about yourself. You're wonderful, flawless, ooh, you're a sexy lady. But you walk around here like you wanna be someone else. Immediately the sultry voice of Naruto along with the smooth tones of the band served to grasp the hearts, and other areas, of the audience. Oh whoa oh oh. I know that you don't know it, but you're fine, so fine, so fine. Oh whoa oh oh. Oh girl, I'm gonna show you when you're mine, oh mine, oh mine. Naruto manages to create an atmosphere which makes everyone feel like he is only singing to them, this actually being a side effect of Siren's song. Treasure, that is what you are. Honey, you're my golden star. You know you can make my wish come true. If you let me treasure you. If you let me treasure you. Whoa oh oh h. Pretty girl, pretty girl, pretty girl, you should be smiling. A girl like you should never look so blue. You're everything I see in my dreams. I wouldn't say that to you if it wasn't true. Oh whoa oh oh. I know that you don't know it, but you're fine, so fine, so fine. Oh whoa oh oh. Oh girl, I'm gonna show you when you're mine, oh mine, oh mine. Treasure, that is what you are. Honey, you're my golden star. You know you can make my wish come true. If you let me treasure you. If you let me treasure you. Whoa oh oh h. You are my treasure, you are my treasure. You are my treasure, yeah, you are. You are my treasure, you are my treasure. You are my treasure, yeah, you are. A deep longing and feeling of something more than skin deep starts to develop even in those who were previously only interested in Naruto for his looks. No one is immune and the Naruto fan club starts to grow even more. Treasure, that is what you are. Honey, you're my golden star. You know you could make my wish come true. If you let me treasure you. If you let me treasure you. Whoa oh oh h. Naruto finally finishes and his audience is stunned into silence until suddenly a random kunoichi starts to clap, which begins a chain reaction of clapping that lasts for nearly 10 minutes. Is Naruto-kun the man from the waterfall? For some reason I feel that he is, but how can I be sure? Kasumi, Anko, and Kurenai begin to question as Naruto begins another song and they are immediately swept into it as well. Keeping their thoughts until the end of the show streets of Iowa. Kuretsuchi was walking like a zombie. Flabbergasted at the news she had just received, the boy she had fallen for had strange powers and was now a prime target for capture. In fact, she was the supposed to be the leader of this little expedition to capture him. X flashback X. Kuretsuchi. You took your sweet damn time getting here. Yelled the Sandyame Tsuchikage Osumi of both scales, called that because of her nature to fence sit in conflicts and try to maneuver for the best spoils with least effort when possible. Calm down, you old gnome. Or else you'll throw out your back again. What? How dare you see arg? My back. Osumi declared after freezing mid-sentence in her usual argument with her granddaughter. This incredibly typical scene was what Osumi's secretary walked into. Sandyame-sama, Suzumaki has news she says is urgent. And shall I send for the chiropractor again? Send her in. And schedule me an appointment with the chiropractor. Understood. In came a worried and haggard-looking Suzumaki. This of course immediately got the attention of both since she had been sent on a simple, and rather insignificant, courier mission for a noble. Report. The cold tone of Osumi rang out. Tsuchikage-sama, I saw an A-rank rogue kunoichi and her lackeys get slaughtered. Quote, dot. So, this is a tough world. And a kunoichi's life isn't exactly meant to be very, Osumi started in a displeased tone. But it was done by a man. Not only that, but he had strange elemental powers. Suzumaki cut in. Explain from the beginning. Osumi replied in an interested tone. Thus Suzumaki explained how her hornets were behaving oddly and it only worsened as she got closer to a spot deeper into the forest. So naturally wondering what could be disturbing her insects, she investigated and found something, well, someone, truly extraordinary. After describing his appearance, Kuretsuchi realized that this was the same man she had run into on a previous mission to the outskirts of Tsuchi no Kuni. She had just finished said mission and was going to relax at a nearby hot spring when she bumped into him. Like a fated encounter in those romance novels she secretly read. They talked for a bit and she agreed to go to his show that night, where she became entranced by his music and started wishing to stay by his side for even just a bit longer. As she thought about this little trip down memory lane completely drowning out the conversation between Osumi and Suzumaki, she realized that if this wasn't played right, her man could be taken away from her for breeding. Or worse, killed off so no other nation could get a hold of him. She had to act quickly and make sure she could find him first to make sense of these odd feelings she's had for so long for someone she barely knew but ached to see again. I'll capture him, she suddenly blurted out. Of course. Weren't you listening, you airhead? You and Suzumaki are to track him down and persuade him that Iwa should be his new address. If not, then we can't allow him to fall into enemy hands. This could spark a new war after all. Osumi then dismissed both of them after giving them other miscellaneous bits of needed information. Flashback Index. And so Kuretsuchi was aimlessly wandering around, wondering how she could protect this man who had stolen her heart. Wait, they can't do shit if I'm married to him thanks to the kunoichi laws here. All I have to do is snag him and make him mine. This is perfect. Don't worry, my love, I'll be damned if I let some whore touch you. Kuretsuchi thought with renewed vigor as she had her game plan ready. Suna, Temari's room in the Casecage mansion. The three Casecage children were currently holding a serious meeting that would decide something very near and dear to their hearts. After they got Naruto to become part of Suna, who gets him first? Naruto had come up when a kunoichi returning from a mission in Odo no Kuni saw the battle at the waterfall, reported what she saw in a crazed flurry of words, and of course the Casecage ordered them to track him down and give him the pleasure of joining the forces of Suna. They agreed instantaneously. After all, it was Naruto who managed to mend the once near permanently broken bonds between the sisters. Flashback X** 4 years ago, Suna Playground. Gaia was once again swinging by herself in the playground that instantly cleared the moment she was in view. Will I always be alone? Even Temari is starting to avoid me more and more. Don't worry, mother is here, child. All you have to do is feed me more blood from these fools who avoid you. It's what they deserve. Give in to the bloodlust, give them the monster they want. No, I am not the monster they think I am. I will never be. I'm just a normal girl. Then why would they treat you like this? You are indeed a monster. Would mother lie to you? Now show them what a monster can do, feed them to your sand. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, Shutup. Gaia desperately cried out while clutching her head. Recently these arguments with her mother had become more frequent, and if something didn't happen soon she may give in to these constant demands for blood. Excuse me, are you alright? The sudden question completely caught her off guard. No one had purposely spoken to her in weeks, and her sand usually responds immediately to anyone who even comes within a few feet of her. Gaia slowly turned her head and stared at the newcomer, and for some odd reason felt her cheeks become warm. He was a decently tall for his age blonde boy in a worn traveling cloak with easily the most handsome face she had ever seen. She oddly wondered how much more handsome he would be in a few years, the thought making her red cheeks darken even more. Who are you? Ah, excuse me. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. And I saw you all alone and you looked troubled, so I was concerned. Concerned? Gaia incredulously thought. Someone was concerned about her. But even after nearly sealing herself off to the words and thoughts of others, she still believed him. Why? She had just met him, and yet, his voice also soothed her in ways she couldn't describe and made her mother calm down and leave her be. Maybe she should try to talk further with him. It's not like she had anything else happening today besides being lonely. I'm fine. My name is Gaia no Subaku. Would you like to play? She timidly asked, and was at the same time bracing for the rejection, the fear, the disgust. Of course. Naruto answered cheerfully with a bright smile. Gaia was momentarily stunned before allowing a real smile, admittedly a small one, show for the first time in possibly years. X Flashback Index. Gaia would go on to spend the day with Naruto and even introduce him to her sisters Temari and Kanko. He somehow convinced them both to hang out with them, and so bloomed something beautiful. He stayed for a week and promised to visit. And he would occasionally show back up in Suna, and of course he would immediately hang out with the three sisters who all developed a deep-seated love for him, helped along by his growing up and musical performances that he would put on whenever he visited. After the assignment of capturing him was given to them, they discussed their feelings and came to the conclusion that sharing would be best. Now to hammer out the details on something they were all too happy to think on. Back with our hero in Konoha, the Silver Leaf. Naruto had just finished his set and was heading back to the dressing room, oblivious to the approaching storm. What do we do? Naruto-kun is almost certainly the man from the waterfall. We can't just leave him alone. I know Anko. One of us needs to go see Hokage-sama and inform her of this. I'll stay and keep an eye on him. Kasumi calmly replied. Why are you so calm about his return? I remember when he disappeared, you were a drunken wreck for a week, Kurenai asked in a surprised tone. Because I can be shocked and overjoyed later. Right now we have to figure out a way to keep him here and find out everything. I will not lose him a second time. Kasumi said in her most serious tone. I'll go, Kurenai said as she quickly left, making sure to walk normally so no one knew she was incredibly aroused and that her panties were sticking to her uncomfortably because of this. Kasumi and Anko looked at each other and nodded while slowly getting up, having the same problem Kurenai did. They then turned towards the dressing room and came up with a way to deal with this. My god, is that who I think it was? Hinata. Tell me now. Asahi said with a bit of franticness piercing her voice, a first for the normally stoic Hyuga head. Yane-sama. This better not be some joke. Hinata-sama, please explain what is going on. Hanabi and Nejiko both stated rather forcefully. Hinata dredged up all her composure and explained the situation. After hearing the details, the three Hyuga women slumped in their seats in astonishment and with an indescribable joy felt a bit of color enter their world again. Somehow all four family members knew instantly what they would do, bring Naruto into the Hyuga like they were trying to prior to his abduction. Let us go see Naruto-kun. It has been far too long since I have seen him and it would be rude not to congratulate him on such a splendid performance. Now where is he? Asahi said while activating her Byakugan and witnessing something she, like Anko, Kurenai and Kasumi before her, would revisit often in her times alone, Naruto undressing. The sight stunned her and made her cheeks redden to a shade to make her daughter proud. A slight dribble of blood slowly fell from her nose as she stood there entranced. Asahi-sama, Okawa-sama. The three younger Hyuga asked in confusion before turning on their Byakugans and looking in the same direction and of course suffering the same fate. Asahi-sama, what are you doing? Asked an annoyed Kasumi. Yeah, that's no fair. Anko cried out in indignation at not being able to ogle Naruto as well. Yergh cough. I do not know what you two are talking about. I am merely looking for Naruto-kun whom I have not seen in years. It would be rude not to say hello after all, Asahi said while rather flustered. If it weren't for the current circumstances, Anko and Kasumi would be secretly enjoying such a drastic change from the normal cold, uptight clan head. Reet. Then explain that. Kasumi deadpanned while pointing at the unconscious Hinata, who had a large nosebleed and a perverted smile plastered on her face, the gaping Nejiko who seemed to be trying her damnedest to burn the images into her eyes for eternity, and finally the atomic red Hanabi who kept muttering, Oni-sama is so big, Oni-sama is so big, Oni-sama, in a husky tone. They are simply enjoying the knowledge that a dear friend has returned. Asahi replied nonchalantly. Of course. So you won't mind if we go into his dressing room and speak to him, would you? Okay, thanks. Anko stated and immediately started walking towards the dressing room. Her intentions betraying her as she uttered a soft perverted giggle. Stop! Yelled the three still conscious Hyugas as they reluctantly tore their gaze away from the free show. We cannot allow you to intrude on Naruto-kun in these private moments. Have you no shame? Nejiko nearly shouted. Shame? I don't see how that gets me some sweet Naruto lovin', so it must not be important. Anko replied as she continued her walk. Although with her last comment said so proudly, she attracted the attention of everyone in the room currently wanting some private time with our hero. Is that Sue? Was the combined reply. Yeah, it is. Problem. Anko challenged while palming a kunai. Goddammit Anko. We can't sneak in if you attract everyone's attention. Kasumi thought angrily as she slowly inched her way closer towards the hallway that leads to the dressing rooms. If she could only get a good enough head start, she could grab Naruto and flee. The atmosphere was turning incredibly violent and soon a massive fight would start. To the older crowd it felt as if they had stepped back in time to the days of the Third Great Kunoichi War. Anyo, Naruto-kun left already, the now recovered Hinata said while wiping away the blood from the nosebleed as she looked for her crush. What? Was the roar heard throughout Konoha that night? While everyone was preparing to fight and not paying attention. Let's go grab Naruto-kun before anyone notices. Tenten whispered to Lei while Lei looked torn about such deception. But wouldn't such a tactic be most unyouthful? Come on Lei. When else will we get this chance? True. Geiru-sensei, what should we do? Lei, my most youthful student, some decisions can only be made with your heart. So let your flames of YMGHFRH. Geiru started but was quickly gagged with a pastry one of them ordered before she could give them away. Yosh. Thank you sensei. I shall follow my heart and go with Tenten. Lei somehow shouted a whisper in her full display of exuberance. Geiru merely gave them a thumbs up as she was still unable to speak. Let's go. And thus they went. Luckily or unluckily for them, they managed to sneak over and find Naruto as he was emerging from his dressing room. With speed gained from their intense training, Lei and Tenten grabbed Naruto and spirited him away through the back door meant for employees. Streets of Konoha. Whoa, you two. Slow down. Naruto uttered as he was being dragged, carried by both of them. In their haste no one noticed an Anbu watching them intently and signaling her compatriots that the operation would soon commence. Roughly half an hour later, training ground 9. So why did both of you drag me out to an empty training ground? Because we wanted to spend some more time with you. Why? Do you not want to speak with us? Asked a flustered Tenten. Why am I being rude? Bad Tenten. Don't be a Tsunade. A soft chuckle was heard as Naruto found a comfortable place to sit near a tree and promptly sat down. He then motioned both to join him near the tree. Now why wouldn't I want to speak with my dear Ten-chan and Lei-chan? This unintended flirting served to fluster both Lei and Tenten as they sat down and immediately felt awkward. Geiru-sensei never instructed us on what to do in these types of situations, Yosh. I must increase my training so this does not happen again. Otherwise my flames of youth may suffer. Lei thought to herself as she used her own thoughts to motivate her into saying something. Naruto-kun. Why yes Lei-chan. You sang quite beautifully tonight. Thank you for inviting us to witness your flames of youth shining brightly. Why you're welcomed. But why are you yelling Lei-chan? I'm not youth. Lei started before being roughly elbowed by an embarrassed Tenten. Inside voice Lei. But we're outs. So Naruto-kun, where did you get all those songs you sang tonight? Tenten-chan is mean, Lei dejectedly said as she rubbed her side. A few were given to me by other musicians and the rest I came up with myself. Is that so? Well, you sang quite wonderfully. I'm glad you invited me us. Of course. Why wouldn't I want you to be there? What musician doesn't want the people they care for there to see them? Is that so? Hey. Tenten-chan is so cunning. Lei finally said while staring at Tenten's face with a deadpan expression on her usually over-exuberant face. What are you talking about, Lei? I'm just having a conversation with Naruto-kun. Tenten nervously said while averting her eyes. Lei merely continued staring at her intently while Naruto zoned out for a bit. He was confused on what was going on between the two, and Kurama merely laughed at him when he asked for help. Suddenly, in a flash of movement, Naruto jumped away from an Anbu who had tried to use ninja wire to bind him. When he looked at his two friends, he saw them both unconscious and a safe distance away being tended by a medic, Kunoichi. As he analyzed his current situation, he realized he was surrounded by at least half a dozen Konoha Anbu. Naruto-kun, we have been ordered by Hokage-sama to bring you in for questioning. Please do not resist. None of the Anbu here wish to hurt you after so long without seeing you. The leader of the group, a cat-masked Anbu with long purple hair, said. Neko-chan, it really has been too long. And I do not wish to hurt you either. So instead, allow me to show you something new. A taste of the siren's song, Naruto said while trying to sound serious, yet instead hitting a mix of seductive and lustful. He took a deep breath and began to sing as his special chakra, a mix of both Kurama's and his with a dash of the ambient chakra in the environment, enveloped his vocal cords. Let Me Love You by Mario. Although I cut off a few verses, you'll see why. Baby, I just don't get it. Do you enjoy being hurt? I know you smelled the perfume, the makeup on his shirt. You don't believe his stories. You know that they're all lies. Bad as you are, you stick around and I just don't know why. If I was your man, baby, you never worry about what I do. I'd be coming home, back to you. Every night, doing you right. You're the type of woman deserves good things. Fistful of diamonds, handful of rings. Baby, you're a star, I just want to show you, you are. Suddenly the effects of this particular song took hold. Everyone within hearing range and conscious entered an entranced state and immediately saw the figure of Naruto, garbed in a fine-tailored black suit with a deep red collared shirt, that hugged his chest tightly, much to the joy of those being affected, singing privately to them and them only. You should let me love you. Let me be the one to give you everything you want and need. Baby, good love and protection. Make me your selection. Show you the way love's supposed to be. Baby, you should let me love you. Love you, love you. As he continued to sing this, illusionary Naruto would come closer and closer to those listening, staring deeply into their eyes and caressing their faces with feather-light touches that left the Anbu breathless and tingling with joy even as they felt their chakra being sapped and their consciousness starting to flicker out. Listen, your true beauty's description looks so good that it hurts. You're a dime plus 99 and it's a shame. Don't even know what you're worth. Everywhere you go they stop and stare. 'Cause you're bad and it shows. From your head to your toes, out of control, baby, you know. If I was your man, baby, you never worry about what I do. I'd be coming home, back to you. Every night doing you right. You're the type of woman deserves good things. Fistful of diamonds, handful of rings. Baby, you're a star, I just want to show you, you are. Some of the Anbu with lower chakra reservoirs than the others started to lose consciousness as they felt themselves drift off into a blissful chakra replenishing sleep. Dreaming of the handsome blonde who only wished to show them the joys of love. Naruto's song would soon lull even the elite Captain Neko to blissful sleep. The Anbu were at his mercy, none able to even put up token resistance as his song wore away at their defenses. You should let me love you. Let me be the one to give you everything you want and need. Ooh baby, good love and protection. Make me your selection. Show you the way love's supposed to be. Baby, you should let me. Rumble rumble crack. Suddenly a tree sprouted around the real Naruto during the ending verses, thus not completely knocking out the few Anbu left, and wrapped around him tightly enough so that he could breathe but not inhale a breath deep enough to sing. Strangely to Naruto, the wood in the tree also suppressed Kurama's chakra. The Anbu who weren't unconscious immediately stood and got into defensive stances as they felt woozy from the huge amounts of chakra they lost. Good work, Maya-chan. It seems your Mokuden would release as quite effective. Came the wizened voice of the Sandyame Hokage, Hirako Sarutobi. Naruto-kun, I'm hurt. Why didn't you come by and say hello or maybe even invite me to your show? You see, Hokage-sama, I'm still not too happy about being kept out of the loop on several issues regarding my birth, Naruto said in a cold tone that stabbed the old Kunoichi's heart and brought a shiver to the Anbu listening. Cough. I see, how about we discuss this in my office? Quote, comma dot. Alright. But no tricks. Hey Naruto-kun, repeat exactly what I say. Excuse me, Maya-chan was it. Would you mind letting me go? Otherwise I fear what you may do whilst keeping me in this vulnerable state. This comment served to immediately bring nosebleeds to the Anbu listening as they imagined the possibilities. Thanking the fact that her mask covered her face, Maya released Naruto after getting the all-clear sign from Hirako. Lead the way, and so this meeting was moved to the Hokage's office, Tenten and Lei being carried home by a few members of the backup squad that arrived with the Hokage. In Naruto's mind, Kurama was laughing her off as she realized the joke potential she had with the dense Naruto. An hour or so later, Hokage's office. And that is the summarization of my time outside the village and my abilities. Questions? Naruto said simply after digging through his memories once again to explain his circumstances, this time including more sensitive bits like knowing the Kyuubi and his powers, some of his exploits. You certainly live a surprising life, Naruto-kun. And I am sorry about keeping things from you. But I did it in the belief that it was for the best, and can you honestly say that prior to the incident, 6 years ago, that your life was truly horrible? Sigh. No, I cannot say that my life was horrible prior to the incident. If anything, I was very happy. Fine. I forgive you, but it will be some time before I fully trust you again, Hokage-sama. I understand. Which brings me to the next bit of unsavory news. I'm drafting you into the forces of Konoha. Nope. Nope. Yes. Nope. And what makes you think you can say no to a direct order from your Hokage? Hirako said with a bit of annoyance slipping into her tone. Simple. I allowed myself to be caught. And in the time we've been speaking, I figured out the way to escape from Konoha, Naruto said with a mischievous smile spreading across his face, inadvertently sending the hearts of the Anbu watching fluttering. You're lying. Whether I am or am not is immaterial. Can you really take the risk of my escape? Naruto taunted in a playful tone that reminded Hirako that Naruto has always been more than meets the eye. Then how else can I get you to join Konoha? Hirako asked, finally relenting to the handsome blonde. Well, I could be a hired mercenary. To be sent only on special missions and paid well while still being able to perform. Along with having a bit of protection. I would really rather not be kidnapped to be raped and experimented on for the rest of my life. Naruto suggested calmly. Deal. Now to draw up a contract. No need. I just happen to have a contract right here for times such as these. Hirako reluctantly accepted the contract and after looking it over thoroughly, signed it. Thank you. Oh, and I lied. I have no idea how to break out of Konoha without serious injury or being hunted down relentlessly and more than likely being captured. Good night, Hokage-sama, Naruto said happily as he left. Quote, comma dot. That fucking fox certainly chose well when it comes to a pupil. Indeed, Hirako lamented, certainly more than meets the eye. The next day, mid-morning, the council room with only the Kunoichi council and advisors present. Why was this meeting called so suddenly? I was in the middle of brunch with my fellow clans women. Said a rather irritated Choko Akamichi. I know. I was finally able to find a place to nap freely without Yoshino waking me up and sending me on errands. So troublesome, sighed the ever-lazy Nara clan head Shikiko. Calm down, girls. It has to be important. And you never know, this could be interesting. Anoko Yamanaka said happily. You're just happy that this got you out of working the morning shift at your flower store, Anoko-chan. Right, Mikoto-chan? The voice of Sume Inuzuka cut in as she started getting a little antsy, keeping still, being interrupted in the middle of combat training. She was dressed in rather revealing gray sweats that clung quite closely to her body due to sweat, her curvy figure being showcased to all and accentuating her feral. Sorry Sume-chan, I was thinking on the errands I need to run after this. Mikoto answered back. She and her daughter Satsuki had been spared in the Uchiha massacre by her eldest daughter Izumi 7 years ago. Quiet. This meeting is about to commence, said Hirako as she finally entered and sat in her chair. Now, I've called you all here because as of today Konoha has a new member included in her forces. And, Hokage-sama, what is so important about a single kunoichi being added to our forces? Doniru Shimura cut in rudely. If you had let me finish, Doniru, you would know why this is so important. Now please, shut it. The reason I called this meeting is twofold: to announce that our long-absent ball of sunshine Naruto Uzumaki has returned. Immediately each member of the Kunoichi Council felt a wave of joy wash over them. Where is he? Shouted an excited Sume. What has he been up to these past 6 years? Asked the brightly smiling Shikiko. Where is he staying? Asked a red-faced Asahi, who was still kicking herself for not being able to extend the invitation to stay at the Hyuga compound. How handsome is he? Asked a giggling Mikoto and Anoko in unison. Can we see him? Asked an incredibly hopeful Shibiru Aburame. At this everyone turned to the now slightly blushing Shibiru. It was odd to hear her speak in a tone other than neutral. In fact, this might be the most emotion the council have heard from her in years. Calm down. I brought up his return because all your questions will be answered. Now onto the second piece of business. I have decided to bring Naruto into our forces as a mercenary. Dead silence greeted this announcement for several moments until, what the hell are you thinking? Came the roar of all the Kunoichi counselors. We lost him once. But Kami-sama has seen fit to give him back to us, and you want to throw him into combat? Yelled an enraged Sume, with many counselors nodding their heads forcefully in agreement. You would force dear sweet Naruto-kun to face the horrors of the Kunoichi life. Why? Yelled an incredibly displeased Mikoto. He should be living his life as a house husband, not wallowing in death. Cried Choco, with many counselors agreeing and secretly plotting to ensure that the house he's living in is in their clan compounds. Enough! Shouted the now incredibly annoyed Hirako, with a healthy dose of killer intent to be sure she had their attention. Being shouted down without being able to explain oneself tends to lead to anger. Okay then. Now that everyone is calm, the reason for this is because it seems that Naruto has developed some rather extraordinary gifts. Hirako then went on to give a brief summary on Naruto's skills. The counselors were of course deeply shocked and viewing Naruto in a new light. His potential to aid Konoha was absolutely outstanding, and if they could convince him to restart the Uzumaki clan or even create his own unique clan, then, cue nosebleeds from several counselors who realized what Naruto's future may hold. How will we classify Naruto-kun? Asked an intrigued Shikiko. He will work alongside Jonin and Chunin level Kunoichi on missions that would suit his skills. He may even work as an ambassador from time to time, since he has the linguistic skill and charm to deal with political situations. I see. Will we be able to see his skills firsthand? Shibiru asked, with once again a tint of hope in her voice. Yes. In fact, we are about to go and see Naruto face off against some of our more skilled kunoichi in order to fully gauge his skill level. If there are no more questions, then let us depart for the training ground. Hirako finished and then stood as she was making her way out. The entire council then proceeded to excitedly get up and follow Hirako. An air of anticipation suddenly descending on them as they wondered what they would see. Doniru, you've been strangely silent this entire time. Is there something the matter? One of the advisors, Kaharu Udatane, asked. It's fine. I was just thinking on what interesting things will come of this. Doniru simply said as she calmly headed to the training ground. I will need young Naruto on my side, but how to do so? Sai has ripened into quite the beauty, maybe she can be of use when not watching the Uchiha heir. Akatsuki Hideout, Izumi Uchiha's room. Izumi Uchiha was many things, a cage-level kunoichi, a beauty that was beyond what most women could ever hope to achieve. She was also currently in a black and crimson silk negligee that hid nearly nothing and would cause any man to faint from blood loss if he were lucky enough to view her stunning form, and an ardent Pocky enthusiast. One thing she wasn't was a morning person. She detested them, she loathed them, she would brutally assault the one who first came up with the concept just to spite them. Which is why we find her here in bed trying to stave off the morning. As she laid there, she thought back upon the dream she had. It was a common one that she cherished deeply, the first time she had met Naruto. Flashback 12 years ago, streets of Konoha X. Izumi had recently been promoted to Chunin rank and was being praised right and left for her abilities. Honestly, she didn't care for all the praise. She just wanted to do her best to keep her loved ones safe. But of course no one ever looked to that, they only cared about her potential to eliminate the enemies of Konoha, or enemies of the Uchiha if anyone asked her, "Father, Fukuko." She was honestly getting a little sick of it. Currently she was just walking around Konoha, avoiding anyone she knew so she wouldn't have to deal with all their praise, and possibly score some Pocky. After an hour or so of simply walking around, and grabbing a treat, she settled down on an empty swing in one of the more distant, and thus perpetually much emptier playgrounds. Today was a school day, so most children would be in school, ensuring her some privacy. As she idly sat there, she started to hear the shuffling of either a small animal or a child in the trees a little ways away. Curiosity piqued, she got up and walked over to where the sounds were coming from, only to see something she found adorable. A small 4-year-old boy in an emerald green kimono. Izumi figured it to be of Hyuga design from the craftsmanship, trying to catch a rather plump bunny. "Come back, Bunny-chan. I want to play," yelled the blonde child as he ineffectually chased the surprisingly speedy bunny. Izumi felt a rather amused smile spread across her face as she continued to watch. Eventually the bunny escaped into the forest and the blonde boy simply stood there with a pout on his face. Izumi couldn't help but start giggling at the cuteness of it all. At this, the blonde boy finally took notice of her presence and turned around to face her. "Oh, hello pretty Nei-chan. Do you want to play with me?" asked the exuberant child. As Izumi got a good look at him, she couldn't help but think he was the cutest child she had ever seen. For some reason she felt the sudden urge to hug him close and not let go, and possibly squeal like she had seen other girls do when confronted with incredibly cute things. Quickly banishing these feelings lest she do anything embarrassing, she responded, "Sure. What is your name, child?" "Yay. I'm Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. I am Izumi Uchiha. Let's go play Izumi ne." Naruto happily exclaimed as Izumi found her hand grabbed and herself pulled towards the playground. And so for several hours she played with Naruto and honestly found herself enjoying it deeply. Eventually Naruto tired himself out and was now sitting on a bench with Izumi, who was sharing her Pocky, an incredible thing to anyone who knew her and her obsession with the chocolate-covered treat. As they sat, Izumi grew curious as to why such a young child was roaming an empty playground alone. "Naruto-chan, why are you here by yourself?" "That's because everyone else was busy and the man that runs the orphanage makes me stay outside for the day. I can't go back until dinner time," Naruto said sadly. "Who makes a 4-year-old stay out unsupervised all day? I'm taking this up with Hokage-sama the moment I leave," Izumi thought while carefully concealing her anger. "Hey Izumi ne, why are you all alone today?" "Oh, I was just promoted and felt the need to be alone for a bit." At this, Naruto's eyes widened and started to sparkle. "So you're one of those super cool kunoichis who protect people?" Naruto spoke in an odd tone. Izumi was for a moment caught off guard. Usually children would immediately think of all the powerful techniques kunoichi would do or the enemies they would, heroically, defeat. But never had she heard a child immediately go towards protecting others. I guess so. Tell me Naruto-chan, what do you like best about kunoichi? That they're like guardian angels and protect everyone. Naruto immediately said. Again, Izumi was shocked. Don't you prefer all the cool attacks they can do? Or the fact they can destroy all their enemies? Izumi asked plainly while staring off into the distance. It's cool they can do those things, but I don't like hurting people. I just want to be friends and help those I care about. Like Lei-chan, Ten-chan and Hinata-chan. I just want everyone to be happy and safe, like a big happy family. Naruto finished earnestly and without a single bit of ill intent or really any negative emotion in his face and voice. Izumi was once again surprised with this child. So innocent and kind, no wonder he was the constant talk of many older kunoichi. Izumi then realized something rather vital. This was what she was fighting for. For those like Naruto who only wanted to live peacefully with those they loved. As long as those like him resided in Konoha, Izumi knew she would give anything to protect it. After a bit more talking, Izumi took Naruto for lunch and bid him a good day. When a Hyuga arrived and asked if he wanted to come and visit the compound, she of course promised to continue being his friend and visit him occasionally. Over the years, Izumi would find herself getting to know Naruto better, and before she knew it, he had carved himself a deep place in her heart. Flashback Index. She had been devastated after finding out about his abduction and subsequent presumption of being dead. But she still held out hope that somewhere, somehow that kind gentle boy she grew to love was alive and well, and in many of her more tame fantasies waiting for her to return to him. As she started thinking about how her Naruto-kun would look now all grown up, she felt the call of her lower lips as she grew aroused. I may as well deal with this. Besides, I'll never tire of thinking of Naru-kun, uff. Izumi thought to herself as she reached her right hand downward and moved her now dampened panties out of the way as she gently caressed her outer lips. She uttered soft moans as she started to increase the pressure she applied before suddenly plunging her index finger into her now soaking wet. She gasped at the sensation and ever so slowly started to pump in and out. Soon she added a second finger and used her left hand to tightly squeeze her right through her silk negligee. She started to moan Naruto's name as she tightly pinched her nipple and increased the force of her fingering. The thoughts of her beloved pushing her quickly towards climax, and with a bit more she would go over the edge. Izumi started to rapidly pant out Naruto's name as she was reaching peaks of absolute pleasure, and right when she was about to finally break into an intense orgasm of incredible proportions, her Akatsuki partner Kishiko Hoshigaki walked in. Hey Izumi, leader Samaha. She stopped in mid-sentence as she realized what she walked into. She and Izumi locked eyes. Izumi with a strange mix of arousal, pleasure, embarrassment and building anger, and Kishiko trying to decide whether to laugh or be embarrassed about the situation. Kishiko decided that an angry, embarrassed Izumi, while hilarious, would be ultimately bad for her health and left the room without another word being said. She immediately bit her knuckle to stifle her laughter once outside the room with the door firmly closed. She would enjoy teasing the usually stone-faced Izumi with this when she calmed down and wouldn't be as willing to stick a kunai through her face. With her mood now killed and incredibly embarrassed, Izumi quickly cleaned herself up and dressed. As she stepped out of her room a bit later, she saw Kishiko standing to the side, trying and failing to smother an amused smile. Izumi adopted her usual stoic face and with a bit of killing intent mixed in with her best Sharingan-enhanced glare said with a tone that was all seriousness. Not a fucking word. And walked along towards the meeting room with the still smiling Kishiko following in her wake. While the day started in an anticlimactic, literally, way, Izumi would be looking back on this day as an important start to a new chapter in her life. And it all started with this meeting. The morning of the council meeting, Namikaze Estate, master bedroom. We find our hero enjoying his stay at his new home. He had slipped a clause into the contract about being able to inherit everything he was owed just in case they used his gender to keep him from what was rightfully his. Currently he was peacefully resting in the massive bed, thinking on what to do with his day. He wasn't due to perform again for a few days. Maybe he should pay a few visits to his old friends. Hey Kura-chan, what should I do with my day? Come into your mind tonight so I can give you something special. You foo. Kurama said teasingly. This banter had been going on for years and was a game the two would play. Secretly, or not so secretly, Kurama loved these little conversations and the times she spent alone with Naruto in his mind. Even if he was too dense of an idiot to realize these games were completely serious offers for passionate love-making that would shatter both of their worlds in ecstasy. Sigh, the things I do for love. But last time I did that you socked me, Naruto nervously replied, remembering the vicious haymaker he received. That's because after spending hours picking the right outfit and creating the most romantic scene I could think of, you came in and said, "Hey Kura-chan. What's with all the flowers? And why are you dressed so fancily? Not a single damn compliment, you bloody fucking idiot." Kurama inwardly raged and had to restrain herself from lashing out. Why did someone so perfect otherwise have to be so oblivious? Well, that was the past. I won't do that this time. Well, as long as you don't piss me off. Alright, I'll come in tonight. I may as well grab a shower and get breakfast. Naruto finally thought as Kurama med in agreement. Who was she to say no to a free show of her man in the shower? As Naruto was stripping off his sleeping attire and thinking on what he should do for breakfast, pork or miso ramen. Such hard decisions, his door suddenly opened and in walked the cat-masked Anbu, Neko. Neko had used her position as Anbu captain to snag the sweet deal of being the one to get Naruto this morning for the demonstration of his abilities. And after giving a minor beat down to several other Anbu kunoichi who tried to take her place, arrived at the Namikaze estate over an hour earlier than she needed to. As a prime target for kidnapping, it was in Naruto's best interest to have a kunoichi around at all times, being her mantra. Since Naruto had opened up the estate for the first time in years, she was able to sneak in instead of having to wait outside. Picking the lock was child's play for her, and since Naruto hadn't been instructed in how to activate the defense seals yet, she didn't have to worry about that. Neko then eagerly used her sensor abilities to find Naruto, and here she was, staring at a very surprised Naruto who had just removed his boxers, which were in his hand. They stared intensely at each other for what felt like a few awkward minutes. Neko-chan, what are you doing in my house? And with that sentence a floodgate was broken and Neko experienced a powerful nosebleed while making sure that she memorized every last detail in front of her. Anbu training had its merits. Naruto quickly put his boxers back on and grabbed a robe to cover himself as Neko finally calmed down enough to stop the nosebleed. I have been instructed by Hokage-sama to fetch you for a demonstration of your abilities this morning. Neko replied in a professional manner as if the past few minutes never occurred. Okay, I understand that, but why did you barge into my room unannounced? Naruto asked in a tired tone. This wasn't the first time someone did this. Usually it was managers at the kunoichi clubs he worked at trying to get a private performance or just get a good long look. Thankfully there was usually an escape route handy or someone else to help him out. As a prime target for any hidden kunoichi village, it would be foolish to not keep an eye on you just in case. She replied a bit too quickly. To Naruto it felt almost as if she had run herself through a mock run of this conversation beforehand so she would be believable. Right, when is the demonstration? In a little over an hour. In that case I'm going to take a shower and grab breakfast. Naruto said as he grabbed a towel and headed towards the bathroom. As he entered and turned to close the door, he found himself instead squeezing the chest of Neko. Naruto was currently in a state of mental shock and froze while a red blush started to form on his face. Squeeze moan of pleasure. Instantly Naruto released her and jumped back while trying to think of a proper apology. It's fine Naruto-kun, Neko said after taking a moment to collect herself. I saw him naked and he squeezed my. I'm so glad I got to do this. She inwardly thought as a chibi version of herself was dancing about in joy. Oh okay then, Naruto said in an awkward tone before realizing something. Why are you in the bathroom with me? Like I said before, you are a prime target for any hidden kunoichi village. As a proud member of Konoha's Anbu, I need to keep an eye on you and ensure your safety. Even while I'm in the shower. One can never be too cautious. I think I'll just get dressed then, Naruto finally said as he went back and grabbed his clothing to change into a loose-fitting black battle kimono he wore whenever he knew he would have to fight. As he stood there, he stared at Neko. Neko simply stared back. And so another awkward pause filled the air until finally, Neko-chan, do you mind? Oh, do not worry about me. Just go ahead and continue getting dressed. Neko said, sounding rather hopeful. I meant, would you mind leaving so that I can get dressed, Neko-chan? Oh, but as a proud member of Konoha's Anbu, you need to keep an eye on me. It'll only be a few minutes, Neko-chan. I'll be fine, Naruto said gently but with a firm tone. Okay. Neko finally dejectedly said while leaving the room. A near-visible raincloud over her head. That took way too long. It was funny as hell though. Naruto merely sighed. A few minutes later, now dressed to do battle, and even grabbing his plain ninjutsu and fastening it to his back using a special harness, Naruto exited his room and strangely enough did not see Neko. He looked around and was beginning to wonder what could have happened with her until he smelled something incredibly delicious coming from his kitchen. Now intrigued, he walked towards his kitchen and was pleasantly surprised to see Neko unsealing food from a sealing scroll and arranging it on his table. On it he saw 2 plates of scrambled eggs, hash browns and a few strips of bacon along with a small bowl of fruit and a large glass of orange juice with a pitcher filled with more next to the glass. All in all, it looked and smelled spectacular. Is this for me? Yes. I thought that since I would be getting you so early that you wouldn't have the chance to eat a proper breakfast, so I made this for you. I'll understand if it is not to your liking, Neko said shyly while averting her eyes. Even though Naruto could not see her face, he still found this side of his longtime friend, occasional protector, incredibly cute. Jerk never finds me cute, Kurama thought with a pout at this scene. Thank you, Neko-chan. This all looks wonderful, Naruto said with a grateful smile that made Neko blush and her heart flutter. Yugao. Excuse me. My name. It's Yugao. Yugao Azuki. Then thank you for this, Yugao-chan. I appreciate it, Naruto said happily. Truthfully, he had wanted to know her name for years and was glad she was finally telling him, it being against regulations to do otherwise unless you trusted the person implicitly. Then could I possibly eat with you? Yugao shyly asked while nervously rubbing her arm. You made the food, so of course you can. At this, Yugao smiled happily and sat down, and in a slow deliberate motion meant to fully tease Naruto, removed her mask. Naruto found her to be an incredibly beautiful woman with soft pink lips, a sharp nose and brown eyes that expressed both kindness and confidence. Her pale skin contrasted beautifully with her purple hair, and when the sun hit her, Naruto swore she looked like a benevolent goddess. There was a reason Yugao was considered among the top beauties of Konoha. For a moment Naruto was momentarily stunned, but after seeing the likes of Kurama he was able to quickly pull himself together. You're very beautiful, Yugao-chan. Thank you, Yugao said with an atomic blush that Naruto thought looked lovely with her pale skin. Stupid jerk won't shut up about her. Kurama started to brood angrily. Well then, we should eat before this gets cold. We will need to head to the training ground where you'll be tested, immediately after this. Naruto merely med in agreement since he already started to dig into his food. And as he thought it was wonderful. Roughly 20 minutes later, private Anbu training ground. Naruto and Yugao arrived in a body flicker near the edge of the large clearing that served as the training ground. It is intended for those using particularly powerful and destructive jutsu, so it was even larger than the standard training field. Immediately he was being stared at by the surrounding mass of females consisting of the clan heads, the advisors, miscellaneous high-ranking Jonin-level kunoichi and several groups of Anbu who had won the impromptu, which squad gets to watch Naru-kun, lottery. Naruto suddenly felt a bit shy. He wasn't used to demonstrating his fighting ability to so many critics without his cloak to hide his face. Hello everyone, he said bashfully, which only served to endear him to all those there even more. Holy shit, being the collective thought to all the clan heads who had not seen Naruto yet. Suddenly they all felt incredibly nervous and started to preen themselves in the hope that Naruto wouldn't think that they looked so slobbish all the time. Many silent curses for not being prepared were uttered in those moments. As the clan heads were finishing up and about to approach Naruto to hit on greet him, Hiriko's voice suddenly sounded. Hello Naruto-kun. I'm glad you made it on time. Are you ready for these tests on your abilities? Of course. Well then, we will be testing several facets of your abilities today. First we will see how your kenjutsu fares. Then we will see how you deal with genjutsu, and finally we will have you spar with several kunoichi to see how your elemental fighting does. We will test Siren's song at a later date since it's so unique that several of our scientists wish to study it. Is that alright with you? Yes. Naruto responded while mentally readying himself for this. Naruto absolutely abhorred killing, which is why he made sure that he would only be sent on missions he wanted so that he wouldn't be sent on, say, constant assassinations and such. He would kill, but only when he knew he didn't have a choice or when it was necessary. It was an evil he agreed to commit if it meant doing what he believed was right and protecting others. Good. Now for Kenjutsu. Hayako. Appearing in a leaf body flicker was a short brown-haired woman of average height with bags under her eyes and a fine katana strapped to her back. Overall she looked rather sickly. You called Hokage-sama. Yes. As one of the foremost kenjutsu experts in Konoha, I want you to put young Naruto-kun here through the ringer and tell me of his skill level. Cough. Understood Hokage-sama. And with that both Hiriko and Yugao, who uttered a quick, good luck, body flickered to the edge of the clearing with a clear view of the combatants. Hello Naruto-kun. I'm Hayako Gecko. The rules for this little spar are kenjutsu and taijutsu only. We will stop when I've gauged your skill level enough to make a proper evaluation. And you better treat my cousin Yugao right or I'll fillet you. Hayako said with a cheerful tone while sliding into her signature dance of the crescent moon stance. Oh okay. Naruto was a little confused on what Yugao had to do with this but responded anyways and slowly withdrew his ninjutsu. He stood in a loose stance with his right foot slightly in front of his left and both hands holding the ninjutsu in front of him. Time slowed to a crawl as they eyed each other and played a mental battle before on an unseen signal both flew towards each other. Hayako slashed downward at around half her normal speed to test Naruto's reflexes. Naruto easily rose above her expectations as he used his ninjutsu to deflect her blade and slide around to her side where he tried to launch his own forward stab. She saw this coming and nimbly moved around his stab while delivering a kick towards his unprotected side that Naruto was forced to dive backwards to dodge. The two were now standing roughly a dozen feet apart, once again staring intensely at each other. In all this happened within less than a second. You're good, Hayako said with a smirk on her face as she was starting to enjoy this spar. Thank you. Naruto smirked back. While he hated killing, he did enjoy sparring. And it had been a very long time since anyone was able to spar with him in kenjutsu, barring Kurama of course, but those were primarily beatdowns she called sparring. Once again on an unseen signal the two threw themselves at the other, this time Naruto trying a wide horizontal slash to try and control the momentum of the fight. Hayako of course instantly figured out his intention, and instead of raising her blade to block his, she used her flexibility to duck beneath it and tried to slash at his midsection. Realizing his mistake, Naruto switches direction and aims his attack downward to prevent her from following through. Not expecting Naruto to have the skill to near instantly change the direction of his attack, Hayako rolled out of the way and then used her reach advantage with her katana to launch herself at Naruto while swinging her blade diagonally. She was just out of Naruto's ninjutsu's range, but he was still in hers. Thinking quickly, Naruto used the same trick she did earlier and nimbly slides to the side of her swing while launching his own devastating, if it landed, kick. Impressed at his action, Hayako allows his kick to graze her, giving her the needed momentum to spin around quickly while raising her blade for a smooth circular slash that would decapitate Naruto if it landed. Once again borrowing a tactic, Naruto puts on a boost of speed to fully duck under the slash and used his ninjutsu's maneuverability to aim a quick stab towards Hayako's exposed belly. Hayako, expecting this, continued to spin and amazingly used the force of said spin to knock away Naruto's blade while sending a roundhouse kick towards him. Naruto blocked the kick with his forearm while moving away, lessening the force behind it. He then moved in and launched several quick successive slashes that were precisely aimed to incapacitate Hayako. Now on the defensive, Hayako used her sturdy blade to block and parry Naruto's slashes while looking for an opening. She found one when Naruto slightly overextended and was off balance for less than a second. Capitalizing on this, she rushed in to finish him with a slash to the muscles in his arms when Naruto smirked and let go of his ninjutsu. Quickly pulling his arms back, he launched a flurry of smooth and quick jabs that Hayako barely dodged before finally jumping back a safe distance. Naruto quickly grabbed his ninjutsu again and stood in a ready stance. They stood there unmoving until finally Hayako uttered a sweet tinkling laugh. "You really are good. Cough cough, that's enough for now. Hokage-sama, I'd rank Naruto-kun around mid-jonin level in Kenjutsu. Come spar with me again sometime, Naruto-kun," Hayako said as she smiled and winked at him before body flickering to the sidelines. "I'd love to," Naruto eagerly responded. The spectators were watching this incredible display of prowess with wide eyes and mouths agape. They had heard that Naruto was talented, but to be able to keep up with Hayako, who was considered probably the best Kenjutsu user in the village and regularly helped train the Anbu themselves. Even the Anbu watching were amazed with his skills and were secretly plotting to invite Naruto to come by and help them with their training in a nice deserted and private Anbu training ground later. The clan heads themselves were having similar thoughts since Kenjutsu was a useful skill to have, and they were sure Naruto wouldn't object to mentoring their fellow clans women in the privacy of their compounds. Now, Kurenai, try to capture Naruto in genjutsus of ascending power, Hirako called out, breaking the stunned audience out of their thoughts. Understood, came the smooth reply of Konoha's Ice Queen. She then proceeded to try and catch Naruto in a genjutsu. In a bout of surprise, she realized that she couldn't get any of her mid to lower tier genjutsu to work. After spending nearly an hour trying genjutsu after genjutsu, she finally decided to bring out her more powerful illusions. She found that only the strongest could even slightly affect him, and even then it wasn't enough to do anything that would cause too much trouble. She hypothesized that it would take an immensely powerful genjutsu on par with the fabled Tsukuyomi to be able to deceive him. After thanking Naruto for his time, she reported her findings to Hirako. Interesting. This certainly raises Naruto-kun's abilities a tad if he is immune to most genjutsus. Anko, Kasumi, Asuna. I want the three of you to test Naruto-kun's elemental combat ability. Understood, was the reply she immediately received as all three kunoichi eagerly appeared in front of Naruto. Hello handsome, what do you say after this? Me and you find a nice hotel room and I can personally instruct you. You foo. Anko immediately said as she hugged Naruto closely and made sure he felt her large D cup behind the thin mesh bodysuit she wore. Anko, calm yourself. We have a job to do. Hey Naruto-kun. Do you remember me? Kasumi yelled at Anko in slight jealousy at being so close to Naruto and then changed her tone instantly to a timid one when speaking to Naruto. Inu-chan. Naruto asked, realizing it was the Anbu who often played with him when he was younger. Why yeah, it's been a while hasn't it? Kasumi said with a tone of happiness coloring her voice since Naruto had indeed remembered her. Indeed. How have you been Inu-chan? Or should I say Kasumi-chan? I hope these past 6 years have treated you well. You certainly look like they did. Naruto said with an easy smile that made the so far uncaring Asuna finally take notice of his looks. She was actually a very passionate lesbian and had never found a man attractive before, so finding herself noticing Naruto's looks served to surprise her and make her wonder. Thank you Naruto-kun. You look great as well. Hehehe. Kasumi said, starting to get flustered from the compliment and was unleashing a nervous laugh. She felt like a schoolgirl talking to her crush and couldn't help but wonder if she was making a good impression on Naruto. Anko, who was watching the conversation between the two, was starting to grow a bit jealous and started to rub her onto Naruto so he would pay more attention to her. This of course setting off Kasumi's jealousy again, but strangely enough it was Asuna who finally forced Anko off of Naruto. Strange, because it seemed Asuna had a jealous look on her face, but isn't Asuna a lesbian? Now then, if we could start this little spar that would be great. Asuna said, surprising herself with her previous action and jealousy of Anko. Sigh. Alright. HMPH*. Fine, Kasumi and Anko responded respectively since they were enjoying this time speaking, well molesting in the case with Anko, with Naruto. The three then jumped back a bit and got into their stances. Anko in the stance for her hubby Ken, Asuna with her signature trench knives, and Kasumi in a loose stance with her hands ready to cast a jutsu. Give us all you got. Anko yelled happily. And like with Hayako, Naruto waged a mental battle with his opponents for several moments before finally everyone exploded into movement. Asuna charged in with her trench knives at the ready while Kasumi jumped back with Anko, both readying a jutsu. As this was happening, Naruto stomped his foot downward, bringing up several massive blocks of stone that he then punched, sending them flying towards his opponents. Asuna cut through the stone easily but was blindsided by a blast of lightning that immediately followed it and was forced to dodge to the side, buying Naruto a few seconds. Kasumi and Anko were both forced to drop their jutsu and were immediately set upon by Naruto, who had conjured up a massive ball of fire, the size of a decent shed, and threw it towards them. The force of the explosion knocked them both back as Naruto then refocused on Asuna and started to run in close in order to keep the flow of battle in his favor. Asuna smirked and started throwing quick slashes at Naruto, who countered with his own punches and kicks accompanied by gusts of wind and blasts of fire. After a few moments, Anko burst into their ongoing battle with her hidden shadow snake jutsu, which sent a mass of snakes from the sleeves of her trench coat at Naruto in an attempt to either bind or poison him. With a smooth circular movement of his arms and upper body, Naruto used the force of his winds to redirect the mass of snakes towards Asuna, who immediately substituted with a log. While Asuna did this, Naruto sent a powerful uppercut towards Anko, which had the effect of forcing a spear of earth to emerge from the ground and nearly skewer her. But thanks to the flexibility she had, something the hubby Ken deeply relied upon, she was able to dodge in time. Naruto was about to launch an attack at her when suddenly the absent Kasumi reappeared atop a massive earth dragon she had created in the mayhem. The dragon then started to launch large rock projectiles at Naruto, who was forced on the defensive as he dodged each one. He then threw up a smokescreen of fire around himself in order to submerge himself into the earth. Naruto then violently emerged from underneath the earth dragon, effectively destroying it and flying into the air before breathing a stream of fire in midair onto the falling bits of earth, turning them into burning projectiles. Surprised at his resourcefulness, Kasumi, Anko and Asuna started dodging while moving towards the falling Naruto in order to engage in close combat. While falling, Naruto unsheathed his ninjutsu and concentrated deeply. This was going to take quite a bit out of him, but if he pulled it off, the effects would be worth it. Spectators with good enough eyes noticed a building up of electricity around him as he got closer to the ground. Right as he landed, he spun around on the balls of his feet, swinging his ninjutsu, from which a large dragon made of lightning emerged and attacked the flabbergasted kunoichis. The dragon exploded in a frightening display of power that encapsulated nearly half the field. Kasumi, who had uncovered her Sharingan while creating the Earth Dragon earlier, thus being able to see the attack coming, moved mostly out of the way and prepare a shield of lightning chakra to redirect most of the electricity, was able to get out of the attack with only a few burns, while Asuna, who was dead center of the blast, was now unconscious, having created a layer of wind chakra around herself in a desperate attempt to lessen the damage, which, while it did, drained her reserves with the amount needed. Anko, on the other hand, had her right arm completely numb and was having difficulty moving since her idea to burrow deep into the ground was only partially successful. Naruto was not in the best shape either, since the attack drained a massive amount of his strength. As he was pondering on what to do next, he heard the aged voice of Hirako. "Enough. You have all fought well. Medics, go and check them out." Naruto then fell on his behind, feeling incredibly tired at the moment as a medic kunoichi ran up to him, beating out all the others who were running towards him as well. She bashfully treated any of his injuries and nearly fainted when he turned to look at her in order to thank her. Getting up, he made his way towards Hirako, who was discussing his abilities with Kasumi, Anko and the newly reawakened Asuna. She had been given both a chakra pill and a small chakra infusion to be able to discuss Naruto's abilities before having to go back to rest. "Naruto-kun, I'm happy to inform you that your ability is being ranked at Elite Jonin. Come by in a few days in order to learn who you'll be working with," Hirako said with a happy and proud smile. "Congratulations, Naruto-kun. What do you say we go out for a dry?" was as far as Kasumi got before Yugao and her Anbu squad appeared next to Naruto. Yugao promptly uttered a farewell before she grabbed Naruto's shoulder and body flickered to her Anbu squad's personal training ground in order to familiarize Naruto with the kunoichis who he may be working with in the future, or at least that's how she phrased it in her mind. Several moments of silence followed this sudden departure before Anko and Kasumi uttered what everyone else was feeling. Especially the clan heads, who started to rush over the moment Naruto was freed to talk. "Son of a whore," with the clan heads during the fight. The clan heads, like everyone else present, were watching Naruto in awe, wonder and a bit of lust as they saw the extent of his abilities. Several clan heads were now going to use this new image they had of the heroic and powerful Naruto in their fantasies. Asahi, Mikoto, and Sum. One thing was for certain though, the fight for Naruto had just had its stakes raised. And each clan head was unwilling to go down without a fight, unless it was Naruto doing the pushing, of course. That night, Naruto's mindscape. After an incredibly tiring day doing nothing but seeing the limits of his fighting abilities, although he kept a few things hidden, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting if he simply divulged everything, now would it? And groping, Yugao's unit turned out to be incredibly handsy. Naruto promptly went home, bathed and collapsed into his bed, falling into a deep sleep. While his body was replenishing itself, he slipped into his mindscape and saw that it had changed quite a bit from the norm. When Kurama had first become his teacher all those years ago, Naruto relinquished control of how his mindscape looked to her. They couldn't exactly train if she was constantly forced to stay behind a cage and not properly instruct him, so now the cage was gone, replaced by a cute ruby choker with the kanji for seal emblazoned on it around her neck. Normally she kept his mindscape as a nice little forest with a simple cabin and a decent-sized clearing nearby for combat training. But now it was a festival in full swing, food stands and game stands everywhere, happy children running about, even couples happily holding each other's arms as they meandered around the place. It was so perfectly detailed and enthralling that for a moment Naruto forgot this was his mind. "Do you like it?" asked a suddenly appearing and surprisingly demure Kurama. She was garbed in a very simple scarlet yukata which while being modest proved its worth in showcasing her curves and adding a certain girl next door allure she had not previously had. Kurama had also put her beautiful crimson hair into a braid that went over shoulder which only added to her current charm. I love it. And you look wonderful Kura-chan. Naruto added after taking a few moments to make sure he could speak without stuttering while looking at his friend, teacher and dearest confidant. Thank you. Well, come on, let's enjoy ourselves. Kurama said while trying to hide her reddening face. She then grabbed Naruto's arm and held it closely to herself, emulating the created lovers walking around. She would be damned if she let an opportunity like this pass by. Several hours later. Content sigh, this was quite fun. Now let's find a seat for the fireworks finale. Kurama gleefully said while still holding tightly onto Naruto, who had an amused smile on his face. He always found her rather adorable when she showcased her more childish side at times, like the past several hours the two were going from stand to stand talking, playing games. It was currently dead even on who had won the most, eating different foods, the taste being taken from Naruto's memories, and generally having an incredible time. Naruto had to admit, he truly cherished all the times he spent with Kurama. She had always been there for him, having a direct line to most of his thoughts and emotions. She could easily tell when he needed support or encouragement, and he couldn't help but hope that she would always stay with him. Kurama then found the perfect place to view the upcoming fireworks, a bench nestled in front of a grove of blooming cherry blossom trees with a clear view of the dark sky. She immediately pulled Naruto down onto the bench and sat closely to him. Naruto unexpectedly moved his arm around her and pulled her into a more intimate embrace. This served to fluster Kurama as she tried not to stutter or do anything embarrassing, and just as she was about to say something, the fireworks started. The sky exploded into brilliant shades of green, blue and red as simple patterns of flowers or faces were formed in the night sky. Kurama found herself simply relaxing in Naruto's embrace and watched the fireworks avidly. As each new firework was set off, she marveled at the incredible beauty and intensity of that single moment. Kurama could honestly say that she was at the moment content with her lot in life as she enjoyed the rest of the fireworks show. After a short while, the fireworks finally ended in a mesmerizing finale of nearly 100 fireworks, all painting the sky in bright colors as if the gods themselves wanted to give even a small fraction more of beauty to this world. As the final firework dimmed, Kurama sat in a comfortable silence with Naruto. She had closed her eyes and simply relaxed in his arms, listening to his heartbeat. Hey Kurama. Yes Naruto-kun. She responded automatically, his heartbeat lulling her nearly to sleep. I'm sorry if this is weird or if I'm wrong, but can I ask you a question? Sure. You know you can ask me anything. Kurama. Naruto suddenly turned his face towards her and stared into her eyes with an unreadable expression on his face. See, could it be that you're in love with me?